So, I'm not sure if this is even the right thread to post to, but I need to tell someone. Hopefully most of you are old enough to remember the vanishing at Blackford State Park back in '08. Well, I think I found something about that case. Something that stuck with me when I was searching for those kids all those years ago. And I'm not sure if I can even trust the authorities at this point, considering how I came across this bit of information. Hopefully by sharing, someone out there can help me piece this together. Perhaps another volunteer can even message me some information they have with their experiences. Well, I guess some context is needed for those that have no clue with what I'm going on about. You see, Blackford County is a small community that is in the unincorporated area of New Haven. It's built on the western outskirts of town, just beyond some of the different reserves and between some of the state parks. Once it was a thriving lumber town, but now its only claim to fame is the numerous camping sites it has. Schools, business trips, outdoorsmen all over the nation come and pay Blackford State Forest, and by extension, the county, a visit. Given the volume of campers in spring, fall, and summer, it has seen its fair share of incidences, but nothing too out of the ordinary. Well, that all changed in September of '08. You see, in early September, an out-of-state high school had booked one of the final weeks available to new campers ahead of the annual winter closure. You see, October gets so cold, the experienced campers are only allowed on the premises. And well, as the news headlines had published, the entire troop had vanished. After weeks of searching, the search was called off. Winter had settled in, and the window of finding the troop alive had passed. 153 students and 8 chaperones gone missing. It wasn't for a lack of experience. You see, comprised of the chaperones were 2 teachers that have gone on this trip before, albeit in different forests. One retired orienteer, one of the school's resource officers, who was once a park ranger, and the other 4 were experienced outdoorsmen and women, all volunteers. Plenty of experience between all of them to get these kids in and out. On September 12th, they all arrived in New Haven. They spent the day in town, then via bus, drove to Blackford County. They drove directly into the state park, and by 10 p.m. on the 12th, they had themselves checked in and resting at the cabins near the ranger station. And that morning, they started their hike, taking the canoes once they came across the large lake known locally as the Moon's Bed, as at night it would seem that the moon both rose and set into the lake mirror, depending on which bank you were on. Once they reached the far end, they followed a brook northeast about 4 miles, which led to their designated camping site, a string of 4 sites called Hatchet's Heft, usually reserved for RV campers, but due to the size of the group, the park did make an exception for them. Soon after this would be the last time anyone would hear from them. And then come the 20th, when they were due back with the ranger station, they didn't come. The rangers waited until noon to start a preliminary search. At the time, the rangers were under the belief that the campers just didn't want to leave, as was very common for first-time campers, or running behind, or some sort of relatively minor mishap had occurred. After finding no evidence anyone had even camped at Hatchet's Heft, the rangers called for immediate search and rescue. Volunteers from around Blackford County, New Haven, and even as far as Boston came and helped look for the missing kids. For weeks, this was the talk of the daily news, how confusing it was that 153 students, there would be no evidence to appear, and the desperation there was to find the kids before winter. Well, something that the media doesn't know was that there was talk of evidence surfacing between the different volunteer groups. But the officers kept us volunteers in the dark. Every team was led by no less than 2 officers, or a few search and rescue members, or a ranger or 2. Hell, at one point toward the end, the FBI took control of the search, and they imposed new rules, such as forcing each of us to sign an NDA agreement, and then took our video and photo privileges away, along with barring us from talking with any of the media or any of the family. We couldn't even talk to each other all that much about what we saw. I know personally, I didn't see anything too weird, but I remember a few times some of the search parties came back looking visibly shaken. Weeks later, the search was called off. The case ran cold and, well, almost no one talks about it. I remember about 2 years ago, I'm not sure if it was some subconscious guilt or curiosity, I visited the county once again for a day trip for fishing, and it felt weird. It almost felt as if the community had forgotten it had happened. The campsites were fully open, the same safety procedures, nothing extra was added. And, well, I guess that's when my search started. A few briberies there, an intimidation here. I don't feel comfortable really explaining how I came across some of the evidence, but I did. And for the safety of those that are helping me and out of respect to those that are interfering with me, I will not be saying their names, and I will be changing names as needed. And I will not upload any documents. I will only be transcribing them on here. I will answer what questions I can without outing my identity, as I'm sure by now a few interested groups have piqued interest in me.